Hugo Phillipps was always going to run his own business. As a student, he started a one-man courier service, and then, while taking time out to start a family, he dabbled in several business ideas. He now runs two freight businesses, Recur and Freight Plus. Well, Hugo shared with the MBR the things they never tell you, and the best decisions he ever made. Hugo, start off by telling me about your background, how you got into business.
Okay, well, when I was at school, my dream was to leave and start my own business. I tried working in jobs part-time and they never appealed to me. So when I left school, I went to study business, and while I was studying business, I decided to start a courier company. And it was no more than myself delivering mail on a bike. And it was really fun because I got to experiment with marketing to clients, understanding taxes and GST, all the basic things of business that you'd never know unless you own your own business. And I gradually built the business up, started employing other couriers and contractors under me, and I built it up, and over 4 years I sold it to another courier company called Urgent Couriers. Now at the same time I finished my degree at university, and I took some time off to have kids, and I explored a number of other businesses, but nothing appealed to me in the way that transport did. I feel like I could understand it. And so in 2014, I thought, what's the biggest type of cargo I can move? Because I was tired of losing parcels and having lots of dramas. And so I bought a container truck, and 6 weeks later the truck broke down and I almost had to scrap it. But I had to still keep making my repayments on the truck. And so I got another business partner who came on. He helped, together we bought another truck, and that was how Recur started.
Have you ever lost a container?
No, never.
No, good. So that was good.
Yeah.
When you started, just out of interest, the business course you were doing, how useful was that as you developed your own business, or looking back, do you think you could have done it without?
It would have been more useful if I applied myself. That was one of my big regrets, that I didn't work as hard as I could have at university. I spent so much time focusing on the business, and I kind of neglected my studies. But I think it was really good because it forced me to think about what I was doing rather than just getting out and doing and working in the business.
Bringing a business partner on, was that something which you were reluctant to do? I mean, you did it because you needed the investment, obviously. Yeah. But I mean, looking back on that, was that something you regret having had to do?
Definitely not. It was the best decision I've ever made. I came to the realization about 4 years ago that I'm not that good at doing many things. I've got a few strengths, but I've got a lot of big weaknesses, and I'm more than happy to bring on a business partner or a team member to help fill those, and it just makes the whole thing more effectively. So I love working in partnerships and working with other people.
Looking back over the last 4 years as you built up Recur, What have been the biggest challenges for you?
The first big challenge that we had is making sure that our operating systems kept pace with the sales. So let's just say we increased the business, we went from 4 to 10 trucks. What would often happen is that the service standard would start to slip, and then I'd have to build up some systems, hire some more staff to make sure I maintain that. So that was the first biggest challenge. The second big challenge that I'd face is that the business tended to be quite seasonal. And so we'd have like 3 great months, we'd be high-fiving, feeling fantastic. And then suddenly we'd just get no orders from clients, and then we'd be running at a loss, and it was really up and down. It felt like we were always going 1 step forward, 1 step back, and it was just the seesaw. And it took us a while to build up the clients to the point that we didn't quite have those seesaws anymore.
Meanwhile, you would have had staff numbers?
Yeah, of course, we had to still pay staff.
So how many staff did you have?
So during that time we had about 7 or 8 staff, some in sales, some in dispatching, some in operations, and some in accounts and admin.
There must be a temptation when you're starting something from scratch and you've got a small number of staff, Recur, maybe 8 or 9 staff, that they become so much more than employees.
Yeah, they do. You become friends with them. And so if it doesn't work out with them, I find that hard to have a difficult conversation when they're my friend.
Is there a bit of advice potentially in there to say you've got to maintain some sort of distance, or you've just got to be, again, really, really strong communication skills? Yeah,
you've got to be open about your communication or your feelings from the outset. You can't be a people pleaser and withhold information. For instance, if I'm not performing, my partner will say, Hugo, you're not performing, and I know that's not personal, and I could say the same to him. But when I started, we both were too nice to have those conversations with each other, and so we'd often be doubling up and doing things we shouldn't have done.
So as you're going up and down seasonally, how much of a burden was that on your mind, the fact you had more than half a dozen people who were also reliant on you?
Oh, it was more of a burden because I knew that if the business failed, they would lose their jobs. Often, like myself and the other owner, we'd go without pay ourselves just to make sure our staff could be paid. So that was really hard when we started out. This is another thing no one really tells you. You feel like it's all going to fall apart. you've just got it in the back of your mind, like, oh my God, like, is this going to be the week where just all the staff don't show up on one day and the clients leave, and like, you're not free. Your mind's always partly on your business. And so I think a lot of people then throw in the towel and they want to sell. And I've seen it because I've seen other businesses that have been for sale and the owners get burnt out. And so
how do you cope with that?
Initially, I wanted to run away from it. And that's probably what I did with my first business. I was like, I can't bear the stress, I want to sell it. Oh, thank gosh. But now I've realized that I've got to, like, in fact, lean into that pressure more and, like, embrace it and find a way to make sure I can deal with it, as opposed to just running away from it and going in and out and in and out.
So what led you to then start another business, being late last year when you started Freight Plus?
We built Recur up to a point where we had a very good position in the marketplace. It was, the business was now stable, and we were looking to apply what we've learnt to another part of the transport industry. And so we spent about a year looking for another business to purchase, and then eventually Freight Plus came up and it fit our criteria for an acquisition. And so we negotiated, arrived at a fair price, and we've taken it over now.
Was that always the plan with you guys? Let's build this up, then look to expand beyond this part of the freight business?
No, I never really had a plan. We just kind of got in there and got on with it.
So how interesting has it been for you? How much of a challenge has it been for you now juggling, maintaining something which is working whilst trying to build something new?
It's been challenging because I realised that now I'm not across every single aspect of the business anymore. I used to know everything that was going on, whereas now there's too many things. So I've now got to just rely on taking chunks or snapshots of parts of the business as opposed to being involved in everything. Yeah, I found that challenging.
And meanwhile, you also bring in a third partner for Freight Plus, and so there are now 3 of you running one company.
Yes.
2 of those running the other company.
Yes.
How do the relationships work?
Well, we've hired a general manager, and he is running Freight Plus. He'll soon be running both Recur and Freight Plus, and that's been the best decision we've ever made because that's given us all the time to step back and focus on parts of the business that we wouldn't have had time to work on had he not been in there sort of managing the day-to-day stresses.
So that was quite a big decision you guys had to make.
Huge decision, biggest decision we've ever made. We felt sick because we were paying him more than we earned at the start, and it felt really like it just felt wrong. But it's now that we've done it, I couldn't be happier.
One of the frustrations must be that there is so much you can't control, such as how busy the roads are, the weather, your fuel taxes, this sort of thing. How frustrating is that for you? How do you cope with that stuff?
It's extremely frustrating because our client will often say, why isn't this delivered on time? And we'll say it was because of the traffic, and they'll say, oh, we don't believe you. With Recur, we've got it to the point where we were able to communicate with the client as we go. So the minute there's a delay, we'll tell them, and we found that eliminated some of those things outside our control. But what will often happen in transport is our costs will go up. The driver's costs will go up, our staff costs will go up, fuel will go up, but we can't raise the rates on the client because if we do that, we might lose the work. Especially as a small business, we had a real fear of ever raising clients' rates because we're worried that if we do that, they'll just drop us off. And so that's been the hardest part for us.
How much comes down to communication with the client then? I mean, you just mentioned how now you tell them if you're going to be late, and I'm hoping they'd understand if you did have to start putting rates up, but that communication must be absolutely key.
Yeah, it's really key, and I know it's key because I haven't done it in the past, and I've upset a client, and they've told me, look, you didn't communicate this, and it was my fault. I kicked myself for not being the one that's done it, and so now we've made sure that we've got systems in place to make sure that happens because I've been guilty of that myself, and I regret it.
And how big are the businesses now?
So Freight Plus has got 32 trucks. Recur has got 12 trucks. Recur runs 24/6, so we run day and night, and Freight Plus runs Monday to Friday. But we're going to try and take that to be double shifting as well.
Your weaknesses in running small business?
My weaknesses. I'm really impatient, and I want it to all happen now. And what I really should be doing is just getting in the business every day and just chipping away, improving the systems, then growing it, chipping away, improving the systems, then growing it. Whereas I kind of want it all now, and then I end up creating a mess that I've got to go back and clean up.
That's very honest of you. What about your strengths?
I'm really ambitious, and I love challenges. And I really enjoy that. I love this acquisition. I found it was the most challenging thing I've ever done, and I've loved every minute of it.
So is that what you actually see, rather than potentially building up each business now?
Yeah.
Is that potentially what your future is? It's about acquisitions?
I think so, yeah. We want to try and dominate each niche we're in, And so we're not going to go and compete with a huge player that's doing a really good job. We want to target one niche that we can be the best in. And once we've maxed out that niche, only then might we buy another company to add on to it.
And when you'd want to buy another company, either you're bringing in more and more partners or you're raising funds for yourself.
Yep.
Tell me about the fundraising side of things.
Yes, so luckily we've got a good relationship with the bank. We're able to bring on another partner, obviously, who was able to introduce some capital to the business to help grow it. But we're still mindful of not over-leveraging ourselves and doing all these acquisitions. I mean, we've only done one, so by no means am I like an expert in it.
So how important is the relationship with the bank, and have you found that they've given you the guidance which you've needed?
I think they do now. We've made a real effort to make sure our accounts have been really, really clean from the outset. And so it's very clear, like, how much the business is making, what our overheads are, what our costs are. And so if you present that to the bank, they'll say, yeah, we're happy to lend to you.
So what's the end goal?
I just want to keep doing what we're doing. We're having so much fun doing it.
Be
I don't know
honest.
if there is one at the moment.
Rich list.
Oh.
Is that an end goal? I mean, seriously, but does that drive you?
Yeah, I think it does. Of course, money. I'd be lying if I said money didn't drive me.